Your husband came in yesterday to make some changes to the reservation. Jessica continued, her voice careful. He switched it to different dates and, well, he changed the second passenger's name to someone named Madison Collins. The world seemed to tilt sideways as Jessica's words sank in. Madison Collins, the new marketing assistant at David's firm. The one he'd been mentoring for the past 6 months. The one who just turned 24. He used the full amount you both saved, Jessica added softly. I wouldn't normally say anything, but I've known you since college, and when I saw him with her today picking up the tickets, I sat down heavily at my kitchen table, my legs suddenly unable to hold me up. 15 years of marriage, and this was how he chose to celebrate, by taking his girlfriend to Hawaii with the money we'd saved together. Thank you, Jessica, I managed to say, my voice surprisingly steady. I appreciate you telling me. After hanging up, I stared at the anniversary gift I'd been wrapping for David, a handmade photo album chronicling our years together. 15 years of memories, carefully curated and annotated. 15 years, apparently worth throwing away for a vacation with someone barely older than our daughter. As if on cue, David's key turned in the lock. He strolled in, looking disgustingly pleased with himself. When he saw me at the table, his smile faltered slightly. You're home early, he said, loosening his tie. I thought you had that charity committee meeting tonight. Jessica from Sunset Travel called, I replied, watching his face carefully. Interesting choice, changing our anniversary trip to next week, and changing my ticket to Madison's name. The color drained from his face, but only for a moment. Then his expression hardened into something I'd never seen before, or maybe had just refused to see. Well, you never want to do anything fun anyway, he sneered. All you care about is your volunteer work and book club. Madison actually knows how to enjoy life. You're too boring for a vacation like this. His words hit like physical blows, but I refused to let him see how much they hurt. 15 years of marriage, and this was who he really was, someone who could steal our anniversary savings and then blame me for his betrayal. Too boring? I echoed, my voice ice cold. Is that what you tell yourself to justify stealing our money? He actually laughed. Our money? I make 3 times what you do with your little part-time counseling practice. If anything, I'm the one who saved most of it. I stood up slowly, my mind surprisingly clear. You might want to check those numbers again, David. And maybe talk to Jessica about the travel insurance policy on those tickets. His smirk faltered. What are you talking about? You're not the only one who knows how to plan ahead, I replied, picking up my phone. Jessica, you can go ahead with what we discussed. David's face turned an interesting shade of purple as I hung up. What did you do? Let's just say Madison might want to pack her own sunscreen. Those tickets you picked up, they're not going to work out quite the way you planned. He lunged for his phone, probably to call the travel agency, but I was already heading upstairs. Behind me, I could hear him swearing as he got Jessica's voicemail. I had some packing to do and a few calls of my own to make. What David didn't know, what he'd never bothered to learn about his boring wife, was that I'd seen this coming months ago. The late nights at the office, the new cologne, the sudden interest in Hawaiian culture that coincided perfectly with Madison's arrival at his firm. I quietly started preparing, documenting everything. The joint account withdrawals, the suspicious charges, the text messages he thought I couldn't see. More importantly, I prepared for this exact scenario. You can't do this, he shouted up the stairs. I paid for those tickets. Actually, I called back. You might want to check the account those payments came from. The one you've been dipping into for your little dates with Madison? There's a reason I let you keep accessing it. The silence that followed was deafening. I could almost see him putting it together. How I'd let him think he was being clever. How I'd watched him dig his own hole deeper and deeper. Sarah, he finally said, using the soft voice that used to make my heart melt, let's talk about this. You're overreacting. I walked to the top of the stairs and looked down at him. Even now, he thought he could charm his way out of this. No, David, I don't think I am. But don't worry. You and Madison can still have your romantic getaway. You'll just need to find another way to pay for it. His face darkened. This is exactly why I needed someone else. You're always so calculating, so controlled. Madison is spontaneous, fun, and young enough to be your daughter. I finished for him. I wonder how spontaneous she'll feel when she finds out you can't afford that luxury resort you promised her. I turned away from his stunned face and continued packing. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. It's done. Tickets canceled. Insurance claim filed. Are you okay? Was I okay? My husband of 15 years had just revealed himself to be exactly the kind of man I'd always despised. He'd stolen our anniversary savings, planned to abandon me for a woman barely out of college, and then had the audacity to blame me for his choices. But surprisingly, I was okay. Better than okay. I felt like I was finally seeing everything clearly. I texted back, I'm perfect. And Jessica, thank you for being a real friend. David's voice floated up from downstairs, a mix of anger and panic now. Where are you going? We need to talk about this. I zipped up my suitcase, smiling slightly. He had no idea what was coming next, but he was about to learn that his boring wife had a few surprises of her own. I spent that night at my sister Kate's house, listening to David's increasingly desperate voicemails. Each one shifted between anger, manipulation, and guilt-tripping, an exhausting showcase of every tactic he used to control me over the years. You're acting crazy, Olivia, one message began. Madison means nothing to me. I just needed some excitement. Delete. You had no right to cancel those tickets. Do you know how this makes me look? Delete. Please, baby, let's talk about this. I made a mistake. You know you're the only one I really love. Delete. Kate sat beside me on the couch, pouring us both another glass of wine. He really doesn't get it, does he? He still thinks he can sweet-talk his way out of this. I smiled, feeling oddly calm. That's because he doesn't know about the meeting I have tomorrow. Meeting? Kate raised an eyebrow. With the board of directors at his firm. I replied, taking a sip of wine. Turns out Madison isn't the first young mentee David has taken under his wing, and his expense reports have some interesting discrepancies. Kate's eyes widened. How long have you been planning this? Since I found the first receipt for a business dinner at the Ocean View Hotel 3 months ago, I said. David always underestimated my boring attention to detail. He never questioned why I stayed friends with Jessica from the travel agency, or kept in touch with his firm's HR director, or maintained such detailed records of our finances. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Madison. David says you're trying to ruin everything because you're jealous. He says you're mentally unstable. I feel sorry for you. I showed the message to Kate, who snorted. Mentally unstable? You're the most level-headed person I know. That's what makes this so perfect, I replied, forwarding the message to my lawyer. Every accusation, every attempt to paint me as crazy or vindictive, it's all just more evidence. The next morning, I dressed carefully in my most professional outfit and headed to David's firm. He was waiting in the lobby, his face a mix of confusion and anger. What are you doing here? He demanded, grabbing my arm. This is my workplace. I calmly removed his hand. Yes, and I have a 9:30 meeting with the board. You might want to join us. His face paled. What meeting? What are you talking about? Oh, did they tell you? I smiled. They're very interested in reviewing your expense reports, especially the ones involving your mentorship program. Before he could respond, Amanda from HR appeared. Mrs. Bennett, the board is ready for you. David tried to follow us, but Amanda stopped him. Mr. Bennett, please wait in your office. We'll call you when we're ready. The next hour was illuminating. I presented my carefully compiled evidence. Expense reports showing business dinners at romantic restaurants, hotel charges for client meetings that coincided with Madison's business trips, even receipts for gifts charged to the company account. This pattern goes back further than Ms. Collins, I explained, pulling up more documents. There were 2 other young employees before her, both of whom left the firm suddenly. I've been in contact with them as well. The board members exchanged glances. The CEO, Mr. Richardson, looked particularly grim. And you have documentation for all of this. Every receipt, every text message, every inappropriate use of company funds, I confirmed. I also have evidence that he's been inflating his expense reports to fund his personal activities. When they finally called David in, his swagger had disappeared. He took one look at the documents displayed on the screen and seemed to deflate. Care to explain these discrepancies, Mr. Bennett? Mr. Richardson asked. David's attempt at a defense was painful to watch. He tried to claim I was making things up out of jealousy, that I was trying to destroy his career because of our marital problems. But the evidence was irrefutable. Given the severity of these violations, Mr. Richardson concluded, "We have no choice but to terminate your employment effective immediately. Our legal team will be in touch regarding repayment of misappropriated funds." David looked shell-shocked. "You can't do this. I've been with this firm for 12 years. You should have thought of that before using company resources to fund your affairs." Mr. Richardson replied coldly, "Security will escort you to clear out your office." As David was led away, Madison appeared in the doorway, her young face confused and frightened. "What's happening, David?" I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Miss Collins, Amanda from HR called. We need to discuss your position with the firm as well." I left them to it, walking out of the building into the bright morning sunshine. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "How did it go?" "Exactly as planned," I replied. "Is everything set for next week?" "Your ticket to Maui is confirmed," she texted back. 5-star resort, ocean view suite. Much nicer than the one he booked for himself. I smiled, thinking of the travel insurance money that had been refunded to my private account, the one David knew nothing about. The same account where I'd been transferring funds every time he dipped into our savings for his business expenses. When I got back to Kate's house, there were 17 missed calls from David. I listened to only one voicemail. "How could you do this to me? I've lost everything. This is all your fault." "No, David. This was all you're doing. I just made sure you faced the consequences." Kate was waiting with lunch and a knowing smile. "So do I get to hear what happened?" I sat down, helping myself to a sandwich. Let's just say David's going to have a lot of free time to think about his choices. And his girlfriend is probably updating her resume. "And the Hawaii trip?" "Oh, that's still happening," I said. "Just not with him. Want to help me pack?" My phone buzzed again. David, of course. But this time, I didn't even look at the message. I was done being the boring, predictable wife you could take for granted. It was time to write a new chapter, and this one started with a sunset view in Maui. Kate raised her glass in a toast. "To my sister, the most beautifully calculating woman I know." I clinked my glass against hers. "To consequences. And to think none of this would have happened if David had just stopped to consider one simple fact. Sometimes the quiet ones are the ones you should watch out for." 1 week later, I was sitting on a private balcony in Maui, watching the sunset paint the ocean in shades of gold and pink. My phone buzzed with a text from Kate. "David just showed up at my house looking for you. You should have seen his face when I showed him your beach photos." I smiled, sipping my Mai Tai. David had spent the past week desperately trying to piece his life back together. According to Kate, he even attempted to reconcile with Madison, only to discover she'd already moved on to a younger, wealthier partner at a different firm. The resort staff delivered another round of tropical drinks, courtesy of Jessica's VIP connections. "Mrs. Bennett, there's a call for you at the front desk." "Your lawyer?" Perfect timing. I've been expecting this call. "The divorce papers have been filed," my lawyer informed me. "And given the evidence of financial misconduct and company fraud, he's in no position to contest anything. He's already agreed to our terms." "All of them?" I asked, watching a whale breach in the distance. "Every single one. He can't afford not to. Between the company's demands for reimbursement and the legal fees, he's practically bankrupt. He's moved in with his brother." I thanked her and returned to my balcony, feeling lighter than I had in years. The sun was setting on my marriage, but it felt more like a dawn. My phone buzzed again. Another message from David. "Please, Olivia, I know I messed up, but this is cruel. You've destroyed my life." I considered responding, maybe pointing out that he'd destroy his own life with his choices. But instead, I simply blocked his number. Some conversations weren't worth having anymore. The next morning, I joined a group of fellow travelers for a sunrise yoga session on the beach. Among them was a woman named Julia, recently divorced herself, who had become my impromptu vacation friend. "You know what amazes me?" she said as we walked back to the resort. "How they never see it coming. These men spend years underestimating us, treating us like we're boring or naive, and then act shocked when we turn out to be stronger than they imagined." I nodded, thinking of David's stunned face in that board meeting. They mistake kindness for weakness, patience for passivity, and organizational skills for being boring, Julia added with a laugh. By the way, my brother's law firm is looking for someone to manage their client relations. After hearing your story, I think you'd be perfect. I raised an eyebrow. Really? They need someone detail-oriented, someone who knows how to handle difficult situations diplomatically. Sound familiar? I took her card, tucking it away for future reference. Maybe it was time for a career change too. Back in my suite, I found an email from Amanda at David's former firm. Several other women had come forward with similar stories about David's mentorship program. The company was implementing new policies and mandatory training. Sometimes one person's downfall could lead to positive changes for others. Kate sent me pictures of the divorce papers being delivered to David at his brother's house. He tried to argue that you tricked him, she wrote. His lawyer shut that down fast. You should have seen his face when he realized you get to keep the house. I spent my final days in Hawaii doing everything David had always claimed I was too boring to enjoy: snorkeling, hiking to waterfalls, taking surfing lessons. Each new experience felt like shedding another layer of his influence, of the limitations he had tried to place on me. On my last evening, I sat on the beach, watching the sunset and reflecting on the past few weeks. David had wanted excitement, had thrown away 15 years of marriage for it. In the end, he'd gotten more excitement than he bargained for, just not the kind he wanted. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Your return flight's confirmed. First class, of course. Oh, and you'll never guess who booked a budget ticket to Hawaii today. I could guess. David, trying to recreate the romantic getaway he'd planned, probably with whatever money he'd managed to scrape together. But he'd find the resort fully booked. Jessica had made sure of that. Some might call it petty revenge. I called it karma. When I finally boarded my flight home, I felt nothing but peace. David's betrayal had hurt, yes. But it had also freed me, free from his subtle put-downs, his dismissive attitude, his constant undermining of my worth. Kate was waiting at the airport, grinning as I emerged, my newly tanned skin and relaxed smile a stark contrast to the woman I had been just weeks ago. Look at you, not so boring after all, huh? I hugged her tight. You know what I realized? I was never boring. I was just waiting for the right moment to be exciting. As we drove home, passing the office building where David had built and lost his career, Kate glanced at me. Any regrets? I thought about the past few weeks, the revelations, the calculated moves, the satisfying downfall of a man who thought he could discard me without consequences. Just one, I said with a smile. I should have done this years ago. My phone buzzed one last time, Julia's law firm, requesting an interview. I smiled, thinking about how David had always insisted I was wasting my potential with my little counseling practice. Sometimes the biggest victory isn't in the revenge itself, but in the life you build from the ashes of betrayal. And mine was just beginning.